You are taking action into your consciousness by tuning into Contact Talk Radio.
And on tunein.com, ping.fm, and UpSnap Mobile.
Contact Talk Radio.
Welcome to Transformations with Tara Sutphen. Tara Sutphen is the author of Blame It on Your Past Lives, Soul Agreements, and The Abenda Chronicles. Grammy-nominated audios, videos, and MP3 series. You can find these MP3 series now at tarainsight.com.
Welcome to Transformations with Tara. This is Tara Sutphen. And my guest today is Brandon Alvis, and he is the ghost hunter. And, we're really looking forward to talking to you, Brandon. We've had so many great, amazing ghost stories ourselves that we can't wait to hear all of yours. So welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure.
Yeah. So how did you get into the paranormal?
Well, in 1995, I lost my oldest brother to cancer. And in 2004, I lost another brother to suicide. So that kind of sent me on my journey into the paranormal, into the unexplained. Never really had an experience per se. It was just more about having to learn about and cope with death at such a young age that it made me look at the possibility of a life after death.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry to hear about your brother. I mean, that's so hard, Anyway, so yeah. So do you have contact with him now? Do you do the paranormal where you do the automatic writing, or am I going to be teaching you that next?
Yeah, that would be, you'd be the perfect mentor for that. But yeah, no, I haven't had any communication. I haven't really reached out per se, but it was more, again, about having to cope and learn about death at such a young age that it made me look into the possibility of life after death, and do we retain consciousness after death? And that's kind of been my mission since 2006, and something that I've been looking at from a scientific principle for a number of years, and it's been very exciting for sure.
Yeah. So anyway, so you've done it for TV, and you've been doing this experimental work for a very long time, correct?
Yeah, about 17 years now.
Wow, that is great. And so tell me, when you started, what did you start doing? It must have been almost like a fumbly fun experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Before I actually ever stepped foot in the field, I read as much literature as I possibly could about ghosts and hauntings, everything from psychic phenomena, mediumship, to the scientific side, the skeptical side. I really wanted to look at everything, that was available, and really make my own ethics, standards, and protocol and the way I wanted to investigate. So I read as much as I could before I actually stepped foot in the field and tried to make contact.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what surprised you the most at the contact?
There's been so many times throughout, the past 17 years that I've had struggle with my belief. There's times where I completely don't believe in an afterlife or ghosts and hauntings, and there's times I fully believe. So I'm always juggling those two. But it really wasn't until I was at Fort Stanton, New Mexico, and I had this amazing evidence that I captured with a very specific scientific piece of equipment. It was called an EMCCD camera, and that records single photon events. And I took that camera into the first federal tuberculosis hospital in the country and recorded something that was not only unexplainable by science, but something that perfectly correlated with all the eyewitness testimony of the park rangers at the facility.
Oh, good. How fun is that? That's really fun. Yeah, it's I have found that ghost hauntings, it's the same thing, I mean, I'm in this work, and it's always so hard to explain it. Like, it's just it just seems to be a part of our natural phenomena, but it's when it happens, it scares most people. People are afraid of ghosts. So and I find a lot of times that the light is so bright that it brings in like a darkness to the beings that sometimes walk toward us, or we see at night, because they're coming through the veil. So they look like they're dark, but they're usually just silhouettes against the light. Yeah. So such a amazing work. So so you continue just to search because it's fun, right? You're just
Yeah,
you're impassioned about it.
absolutely. It's helped me, kind of understand more about my own life, and the bigger picture, not just about everyday routines, things like that, but the bigger picture of what happens when we die. Is there consciousness after death? And what is that?
Right.
How does that work for us? So it's been a fulfilling journey for myself, not only from the point of view of having these amazing adventures, going to some amazing locations, but also helping me understand that there's a bigger picture involved.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I know that sometimes it's not being able to explain that whole big picture, but it's still such a huge picture out there. I mean, it's like the vast universe. I mean, there are different worlds, and
Exactly.
you're tapping into right into it. Yeah, how fun. So, I had an experience where uh, I had this group. They came in as house clearers, and so they came in to clear my house. And so because I have a team around me on the other side as well to helping me do my work. So it's not really like I wanted them cleared. We just wanted them to appear. And so they set up all the ghost hunting equipment, and sure enough, we got the most incredible footage. I have one Egyptian who follows me around a bit, and he came in the dining room and blew smoke across the room. Yeah, I'll have to show you that. You'd love that. Anyway, so we just had like a lot of fun phenomena. Oh, and all the equipment like went off and was scattered, and stuff like that. It was quite a fun experience. I would love for you to do it sometime. We'll have to play. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So and definitely, I'm always up for a fun going out and seeing to talk to the spirits and see what all is up, because usually I find with ghosts is that they have a lot of unfinished business. They've died in kind of a weird way, and so they haven't gone on to the other realms. They want to explain themselves. They want to talk to you about it. They want to be heard. So yeah, you're the counselor for the dead. Yeah. All right. So in the shows that you were doing, tell us about those. What were some of your favorite episodes, and yeah,
Yeah,
different
it was very
experiences?
very cool to be part of A&E's Ghost Hunters, the reboot of the show that we ran for 2 seasons. We did 24 episodes and got to see some amazing locations.
Mhm.
Multiple states. I was able to go to Alaska in the dead of winter, which is a cool experience to have.
Mhm.
We were all over the
Quiet.
place.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, but it wasn't until season 2 that we started to really have some amazing experiences that we documented with some really cool equipment. But we
Mhm.
also had some amazing places. One location that always sticks out to me was a place called the Glenn House in Cape Girardeau, Missouri, that was owned by the Glenn family, a very prominent family in Cape Girardeau in the 1800s, owned a bank, had a lot of success. And then one day they lost the bank and everything kind of, fell by the wayside. And it was always known as the Glenn family curse, because
Mhm.
after they lost that bank, a lot of, a series of unfortunate events happened. And I was there doing a walkthrough with the president of the society there, and she started to tell us that uh, Missouri State University neighbors that house, and a lot of times they have functions there. Presidents and uh, teachers from
Wow.
the Missouri State University would come
Mhm.
there and have meetings and whatnot. And they told us the story about how one day they were standing in the lobby, and all of a sudden coins just started appearing out of nowhere and just
Mhm.
dropping on the ground, just materializing out of
Mhm.
nowhere. When I
Wow.
first heard that, it sounds like a kind of a fantastical story, kind of hard
Mhm.
to believe. But it wasn't until about 10 minutes later that I start to walk into one of the parlors, and I found a coin laying on the ground from the late 1800s.
Oh my
that
God.
looks like it was never in circulation. It was perfectly clean, no scratches on it whatsoever. And my first thought was, is this a museum piece? Is this something they were, maybe moving stuff around? It fell out of a case, something like that. And I took it to Christy, and she'd never seen anything like that before. And they actually didn't have anything like that in the collection. And what was interesting to me was it correlated with the story from all of these very credible people, but also it correlates with the history of them owning a bank. So I handed her the coin, and I start to walk out of the threshold of the front door, and there was another coin from the late 1800s sitting at the threshold of the doorway. So
Wow.
that, unfortunately, that didn't make the show because it seems pretty fantastical,
Right.
but it was a very unique experience and something that correlates with the reports at the house.
Yeah, I love apporting. That's why I just love that. So, yeah, I've been around that. I've been around when people can apport, or my guides have apported things at different times. It's fantastic. That is fantastic, especially money and rare money. Maybe you could go on the internet and resell it
Right,
for a lot of
exactly.
money. Yeah, but I think that what the person was doing was leading you somewhere, because it was in, like for one, you found it in a what was the room that you found it?
It was a parlor, like a men's
Parlor.
parlor. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
And another thing that was, interesting about that exact situation
Mm.
was not only was the coin on the ground, but there was a portrait of David Glenn, who was the head of the household and the one that ran the bank. And that portrait was on the ground. It was actually at one time on top of the piano, and it had to jump over a couple other picture frames and really land in a spot that, if someone was to knock it over, or if it fell, it would have knocked over the other picture frames. So
Yeah,
definitely there
that's
was a
showing
message.
off. That's
Yeah,
showing off for
exactly.
you. Yeah, I had that's what I found too, is that if you ask them to come forth, they do it, and they try to do it in a big way, because that was my thing. Hey, the equipment's up, I really want you guys to show yourselves, have at it. So yeah, somebody was really showing off for you. So, and then yeah, because they want to be heard. There's a lot to talk about. Did he die in a strange way?
Well, a lot of the family died in a strange way. A lot, a series of deaths in the house, a very tragic story. So there was a lot to unpack there, a lot of tragic history, but it all seemed to correlate to the history of the house, and like you said, relaying a message. Something happened in their life. They died in an unfortunate manner, and there's a story to that. And it was a lot to deal with. We didn't have a lot of time at the house. I wish we had more, because I think there was some really serious information that we could have got if we were there a bit longer.
Right, right. Yeah, I really do think there would have been. Huh, interesting. Yeah, it's funny, because what you're doing and what someone else is doing, I mean, that is like fascinating, actually, to be finding money. Yeah. Yeah, but I think it was telling a story and wanting you to go further. So, it's leading you through thresholds. And so those thresholds is like a clue of dig deeper.
Absolutely. And I
Mm.
know that, myself and Grant Wilson were talking about it, and one of those coins, the dates of the coins actually did seem to line up with some of the events that happened with the
Okay.
family. And I believe it was one of the death of one of the daughters. The date on the coin was
Mm.
perfectly matching to the same year. So very interesting
Wow.
stuff. And
That's interesting.
yeah, I wish I could have had more time there. That's for sure. Hopefully I can go back one day.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Because that is there's some story there, and somebody really wanted to tell it. Yeah. Whether it was about the main guy of the household, or maybe one of the daughters. That is interesting. Yeah, love it. I love that stuff. Yeah, I have you ever been to Lilydale?
I have not. I've read about it many times,
Oh,
but I
I'd
have
love
not
to go
personally.
with you to Lilydale. And Lilydale is just incredible. Super incredible. Yeah, I've been there many times, and I did a show with the son-in-law of the King of Norway years ago for Norway. It was a really fun for Scandinavian TV, and we were running through the woods and doing all sorts of stuff, moon rituals and stuff. But yeah, it was really quite interesting. All the psychic phenomena that happens there is, and because they ask for it. It's like, come forth. So even when I was there last time, I was there about a year and a half ago now, and yeah, in July of 2020, I guess 2019. Yeah, 2020 maybe. Anyway, so I went to Nova Scotia for a client, and so I came in and friends, and I came back down to Lilydale, because you got, if you're close, you got to go. So it's just, all my dead friends said hi, through mediums. It's really fun. Really
yeah, I've read a lot about Lilydale, and actually I have a few friends that have been on a few occasions, and I've heard a lot of amazing stories out of there, and hopefully one day I can make it out there.
Right. It'd be fun for you to take your equipment, because they would probably really put on a show. So the first night that I ever went to Lilydale, it was raining. It was really raining really hard. And I was staying in one of their guest quarters, and it's just raining. But in my dreams, I lucid dreamt, and all of a sudden I was walking through the streets of Lilydale in the sunshine, and all the people were coming in and greeting me and saying hello. And the next day, when I was doing my presentation, my seminar, all around the whole room were all these photos of these people from like the late 1800s, early 1900s. And it was like, oh, these were probably the people that were saying hi last night. Yeah. But they all were walking out of their homes and stuff and greeting me on the street. It was just like an incredible lucid dream. But yeah, Lilydale's really fantastic. Really a wonderful, wonderful place. Yeah, I'd love to go there with someone like you. You'd be fun. Yeah,
that'd be fantastic.
I mean, because it's already that. Yeah, so the spirits are coming out. Yeah, yeah. So what has been the most touching? What is the most touching story that you've come across? That you thought was really sweet or really nice, or the message was great. What do you feel?
I was very lucky to live for 3.5 years at one of the most haunted places in Southern California, at the Glen Tavern Inn. I don't know if you've been there or not.
I have.
Yeah.
I totally have.
Yeah, I've lived there. I lived there for 3.5 years, and was lucky enough to immerse myself in a haunted place like the Glen Tavern. And in my time there, there was many moments where I was the only one in the hotel. No one else was there. Just had the run of the place. No one was in any of the rooms, and I started to notice that there was a lot of activity associated with children in the building. And there was times where certain items would show up. I had a teddy bear for the kids. After a number of years staying there, I would set the teddy bear in one room just as a gift to the kids, letting them play with it. And I would notice that it would end up in my apartment days later, which was really strange, because there's no way it could have got through the door. No one had keys to the apartment. Yeah, exactly. Right. So it was really cool to see that there was that intelligence associated with it, and that acknowledgement. And it was always cool to have that interaction with the couple of kids that seemed to be at the Glen Tavern Inn. And there was a very playful, aspect to it, which was really cool. So it was, you have this familiarity being there and living there, and you have this connection that you make. And that was a really cool experience for me.
Right. The Glen Tavern Inn. I did a Druid Pact seminar there once, and my group went through and we did all the ghosts, like the ghost tour. Yeah, it was fun, and what they were feeling, what they were experiencing.
Beautiful
so that
place.
was fun. Oh yeah,
Beautiful
it's
place.
great. It is. It's really fun. And just what is that movie? I mean, it's Daniel Day-Lewis, I think so.
There Will Be Blood.
There Will Be Blood. So yeah, it was a weird little oil town. Yeah, and so that place was probably hopping in its day.
Oh yeah, a lot of history associated with it, and a lot of people that go and stay at the Glen Tavern have no intention to go for ghosts or hauntings. It's a beautiful, quaint place that people frequent a lot, and a
Yeah.
lot of stories come out of that, which is cool. People that typically aren't looking for it will walk out of that place saying, "Hey, something happened." So it's a unique location.
Right. Actually, one of my very best friends died there. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So I would love to go with you someday to
Was
see
it
it.
Patrick Smith?
Yeah. Patrick
You
Smith
know,
is
hold
one
on,
of
you
my
know
very
Patrick?
best friends. Yes.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
That
I knew him in Ireland. Yeah.
no.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, hold on. This is Patrick was my neighbor. I lived with him for
Mhm.
3.5 years. I mean, you know, the
Yeah.
apartment he lived in
Yeah.
above, he had the Houdini's lounge and all that. I
Mhm.
was around Patrick every day for 3.5 years. He was a good
Wow.
friend of mine. He was who I always considered my spiritual advisor.
Yeah. Yeah. I know.
You
I
know
miss
Patrick?
him every day. Yeah. I knew him when
Oh,
I knew him in Ireland. So yeah. And so he came over to hang out with all of us. Yeah. In America. Yeah. Because
wow.
we had such a great time in Ireland. When I met Patrick, we were a group. I had gone over to speak for the Body, Mind, and Spirit Festival in Ireland. So it was in Galway, and it was a big storm, and the seaweed and some of the ocean had come onto the streets. It's like this huge storm, and but it was this cool festival that was put on by the sister of one of the actors from Braveheart, the father, the father of young Mel Gibson, Sean Lawler. Anyway, his sister put on this beautiful event, and so went over to speak for it. And yeah, it was just a wild time. I'm still friends with a lot of that group, and we traversed Ireland and had so much fun. Dolmen Stones. We did Druid sweat lodges and stayed out at a really incredible farm in I think it's called Mount South Kennedy, below Dublin. We had such a great time with everybody there. They were great.
That is fantastic.
So anyway, yeah, so Patrick was one of those people. So
Wow.
Patrick, so I knew Patrick in Ireland, yeah. And so he came to America.
Yeah, he is one of the most amazing people I've ever met in my life. He was a huge part of my life, someone that really opened my eyes to the spirituality side of things that I really never understood.
Oops, sorry. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I know. He was fantastic. Yeah. So anyway, I'm writing a book now, and Patrick is part of it. So
Wow,
yeah. So
that is unbelievable. What a small world.
Yeah,
That is
it's a
just
great
crazy.
we were just Cheyenne and I were talking about the 6 degrees of separation last night, and how there's always somebody that you kind of that our lives are somewhat we think it's serendipitous, but in actuality it's destiny. And so it's just fun. Yeah. Again, but yeah, Patrick. Yeah. So
That's great
yeah,
to hear.
we have to go there sometime. That would be just fantastic.
Absolutely. Yeah, he was such an amazing man. And there's many times
We'll
him and
tape
I
it.
would do all kinds of different experiments in the hotel where he would use his psychic ability and I would use my equipment. And many, many times him and I would go in and have some really cool results together. And
I
I
bet.
miss him dearly. I miss him dearly.
I do too. Miss him dearly. Yeah. Yeah, but anyway, that's great. Brandon. That's nice. See? He throws people together, doesn't he? Because
Oh, absolutely.
we weren't even I met you through Cheyenne. So it's really wonderful that yeah. Going through it. Because she was like, "Oh, Mom, have him on your show." Brandon's fantastic. Yeah. Yeah. So awesome. So yeah, so anyway, that place is really amazing, cool. Do they do like ghost? Well, probably you do here.
Yeah, I believe that they still do ghost tours of that nature. A good friend of
Right.
mine, Craig Owens, who wrote a really great book called Haunted by History, he did a really cool chapter on the Glen Tavern where he
Right.
went in and recreated some of the period photos, where
Yeah.
he would bring people in and put them in period dress and recreate the photos. And so, yeah,
Mhm.
I think they still do a lot of the paranormal stuff, and
Right.
they get a lot of people coming for that exact reason. So it was
Right.
a very, very cool experience, and I'm blessed to have lived in that place for 3.5 years and be part of its
Right.
history.
Right. Right. Yeah. I don't know too much about it right now. I should do another seminar there upcoming, maybe. I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, that would be a fun place to do another one. So, yeah, and Patrick and I had done the Druid Pact together. That's when we had done that. Yeah, because he was just starting to go up there. Because we did that seminar, I don't know, 2008, 2009, somewhere in there. Yeah, I've known Patrick since like 1996. I met
Wow.
Patrick. Yeah. Yeah.
Again, what a small world. That is just mind blowing to me. That is
Yeah.
crazy.
I know. Yeah, it was great. So anyway, yeah. Oh goodness. So somebody wants to get in. They're probably a Patrick fan. Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, so yeah, incredible. So yeah, I just want to hear more. Tell me more about some of your fun stuff.
Yeah, I've been investigating actively in the field since 2006. So I've been very lucky to investigate well over 200 locations, everything from prisons, mental hospitals, Victorian
Right.
mansions, public schools, everything. And it's been a wild ride. Recently, I actually went and investigated the Warner Grand Theater in San Pedro, California, which is one of the first Warner Brothers theaters that was ever created. And that was a really great experience because we went there with a woman that's actually never investigated before. So she wanted to have her first kind of paranormal experience and go into a place and try and see if she can document or have an experience of any paranormal activity. And we were there, and about 3 or 4 hours into the investigation, there was a 126-pound roll of linoleum that was on the stage that actually launched by itself, and actually
Oh
was,
my
yeah,
God.
which was really first time I've seen something like that. I mean, it
Mhm.
was a lot of force behind it, something that's very remarkable to see. But not only that, the employee that works at the theater was talking about how he placed that there and how heavy it was, and that there's no way it can move. And we actually had video footage earlier of where it was, exactly where it was placed, and then the footage of where it ended up. And it was a very cool experience. But San Pedro's got a lot of really cool stuff. I was lucky to investigate the RMS Queen Mary for many years.
Wow. I can't believe that. Yep. Somebody's wanting to get through.
Yeah, exactly.
I turned off my phone.
The RMS
So,
Queen Mary was
yeah.
a location I investigated since 2008. A really
Mhm.
beautiful place. Very unfortunate to hear that they might actually be sinking it, which is very sad.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, getting rid of it, which is, I hope that someone fixes it. I would love to see it go back to Scotland if possible. That would be really great.
Right.
But I was lucky enough in 2008 to document what a lot of people consider to be one of the best pieces of apparition footage from the Queen Mary in the first class pool changing stalls in 2008. And I've had that footage analyzed by many video editors, many engineers, people that I'm hoping could give me a natural explanation for it, and it's yet to be explained. So the Queen Mary
Right.
is just such an amazing location that I've
Oh, it
documented
is.
a lot.
Right, right. Yeah, because I've slept on the Queen Mary a few times, and it's been quite, definitely is haunted. Yeah, and that's fun. That's a fun place to look for, spirits. But where I'm doing a lot of work. I'm doing a lot of equine therapy right now. I do shamanic work with people who come in, and then we use the horses as like to lay down their burdens. And so, but the stables that we use is oh gosh, are from the 30s and 40s, 50s, by Hollywood, you know, um, uh, by Burbank Studios there and stuff, the Burbank Equestrian. And it would be so interesting to bring in the equipment just to kind of see the old cowboys that are standing around, because there is definitely that. I mean, you walk in, it's like, ooh, nostalgia. Yeah, and you just feel it. It's fun.
Yeah, there's a
It's a
lot of
kind of a
activity.
fun, weird
Yeah,
place, because I'm
right.
sure you haven't done like horse stables and different places like that.
No,
But
no, that would be new.
Tom Mix is probably standing there,
Right, Tom Mix. Yeah, I did investigate William S.
Yeah.
Hart's property.
Mhm.
But it wasn't the horse stable side of it. But
Mhm.
got a little bit of that classic Hollywood investigations
Mhm.
before, and there's
Right.
always a lot of activity associated with classic Hollywood,
Yeah.
which is
Well,
really
they were
cool.
showmen. They want to show you now. Yeah, probably, or
Exactly.
the people around them. Yeah, yeah. Because I tend to try to take spirits when I do any of the spirit contact, to take them, or to talk to them from a really high level. So, usually the ones who are left behind, they have a story to tell somewhere. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, it's so exciting. Anyway, I just wanted to, yeah, awesome, awesome, awesome. So anyway, so I'm trying to, we've both had so many experiences that it's like, oh, what do we bring up? Yeah. What would everybody like to hear? Yeah. So now you can catch the show. What's the show called and everything?
Well, I was on A&E Ghost Hunters, but
Yeah.
that is now transferred to Discovery Plus. I'm not on the new season now, but
Mm-hmm.
I do have
Yeah.
a book coming out on January 8th that'll be published by Llewellyn Worldwide. Great
Mm-hmm.
publisher, one of the
They
oldest
are
publishers
great.
in America, and big fans of their work. Love everything they do, and we have a book coming out called Elements of a Haunting. Myself and my co-star from A&E's Ghost Hunters, Mustafa Gadalari, co-wrote the book together, and we talk about a lot of our behind-the-scenes experiences from the show, as well as we talk about a classification system that we're introducing for ghosts and hauntings, where we don't just talk about, is it residual, is it intelligent? We kind of break it down by connecting history with the data that we collect, and really tell those stories in depth, and really bring up the who, what, when, where, why, how aspect to it. So it's a lot of fun, and we cannot wait for people to read it.
Right. So tell us one of the stories, so everybody's just waiting to buy that book. Read everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we did an investigation in Pampa, Texas, at a location called the Worley Hospital. It was purchased by two cousins that got the building rather cheap, and the cousins wanted to turn it into a bed and breakfast. So they started to do renovations on the building, and started to have a lot of experiences. We're seeing shadow figures, hearing disembodied voices, things like that. And it started to frighten them to the point where they stopped the renovations and didn't want to continue. But it wasn't really until we got involved and started doing deep research from the historical end that we found this really tragic but amazing story about a nurse that worked at the hospital. And her name was Mary Lucille Myers. Her husband was in World War II. She was a young nurse that worked there, and unfortunately took her own life in the hospital. And there's a lot of backstory to it, where she was very depressed, a lot of stuff with her husband being in World War II. And it all spun out of control to the point where she decided to take her own life in the hospital. And they tried to save her, it was not successful. But we started to notice that if anyone was going to be at the Worley Hospital, we thought it would be Mary. So we
Yeah.
went in and tried to open a line of questioning and start communication, talking to Mary and talking about her past, and asking her, if she needed help, things of that nature. And not only did we have amazing information and documentation through multiple devices, but we had her voice through EVP, electronic voice phenomena,
Oh
where
my
she would be
God, I
speaking
love
to us,
that.
and you can hear her speaking to us
Yeah.
and answering our questions. And then the devices we had, like the EDI Plus and a motion detector, would be going off at the same time she would be speaking to us. So it was really cool, and a really great case where we did that really deep historical research, found out a very specific person that would possibly be there still, and we affirmed that with our line of questioning and the documentation, and just a very sad story about Mary. Like you said earlier, there's always a reasoning behind why they stick around and why they're there. And that was a really great example of the way we investigate and the way we go about our investigations, and it being fruitful, and us having that information and that data to say, hey, this is who we thought it was. This is the history associated with that. Here's the information confirming that it was. So amazing location. We talk about it in great detail in the book, and really talk about the backstory of Mary Lucille Myers and who she was in life, and how she unfortunately took her life, and it seems to retain and stay in the Worley Hospital.
Right. So she was really depressed that her husband was still over in World War II fighting. And
Right,
so she didn't wait for him.
Right. It's a very sad story, and
Wow.
interesting point in our history as a country, you know, in World War II. And you never know, there's these small towns throughout the country, you know, it doesn't matter where it is, but there's some really great stories and some really significant places that otherwise would be overlooked. And you know, I've been lucky and very fortunate to experience some of those stories and relive that history in a sense.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I know it's, and it is, you know, someone like Mary, you know, it's like an odd imprint. Somehow when she died, it's an imprint. She stays where she's at. She's probably longing for the husband, right? So yeah, so she's, you know, stuck. She's stuck. She feels she's still in the waiting zone. So yeah, incredible.
Yeah, it's a really cool place. And once we met with the clients and talked to them and really gave them that history associated with Mary, and then showed them the information we collected and the evidence we collected, it really put them at ease to not really be afraid. It wasn't anything malicious, not something that was, you know, trying to, you know, do harm to them in any way, shape, or form. But it was this woman that just had a tragic end and chose to remain in some way. And I think that really helps them realize that hauntings aren't all scary. It's not this terrifying experience all the time. Sometimes there's a beautiful message involved. So it really helped them, you know, get back to the building and, you know, being comfortable going in, which was very nice.
Yeah, I'd love to take you to this one building that I've been doing a lot of work in. I've been doing a lot of clearing in Sheffield, Alabama. It's a building that was owned by Captain Keller, who is Helen Keller's father.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, built it. And yeah, so it's the Keller building, and Captain Keller building. And it just had all phases in it. Really interesting. So it's 4 stories because it has this basement, and a beauty parlor was in the basement at one time, and it has a boiler room back down there. Yeah, so it's just this huge, you know, like all this equipment. And so the first floor was it used to be it's been a dress shop, but in its heyday back in the early 1900s, it was a Walgreens or some kind of drugstore, right, with a soda fountain in it. And then and you know, I think it like went up to be a Walgreens back, but now it's completely empty. It's been empty for 45 years or 40 years when we got to it. And I know the girl who owns it. And so she wanted it cleared. It has these beautiful windows like upstairs. It was a bank on the 2nd floor. And then on the top floor, it was a gentleman's parlor, you know, so a private club. And so, and then underneath all the wallpaper that's come down is all Masonic symbols. So it's really interesting, you know, and they're in the South as well, you know. So, so I've done a lot of really interesting work there. I mean, the spirit contact off of the charts. It would be great for you to bring in your equipment if you ever wanted to use that building for a show.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's really a great building. So, and then, oh gosh, because it's just, you know, I made a video and it's just a crazy video. And, but I don't know if I should show it to you from the standpoint, you should just take your equipment in there and do it. Cause it's
okay.
It's just crazy fun. And the one time, so we were talking about it and everything, and oh gosh, the first time we opened the kind of the cellar, it's almost like a cellar door going into the downstairs, right? You're going to walk down these stairs and downstairs, and we took off. We didn't even take off, I don't think, I don't know, they just whooshed up at me. It was just like, because all of a sudden, I felt all this, energy like pushing me back, but fast, and cold, and it was crazy. So, we found a newspaper, and so this couple were over for dinner at my friend's house, and we said, well, we should probably take them, to the building and just show them. It'd be kind of fun to just show them the building. So we went in, and there's only just a little stack of newspapers, and as one of my other friends was reading the newspaper, front of the newspaper, the guy looked over her shoulder and said, "That's my mother on the front page." And it was a picture he'd never seen of his mother from 1958.
Wow.
Yeah, it was great. She was like the Cotton Queen or something, and she was on the front. So it's just fun. It's a really fun, cool place. And I thought, oh, well, they're giving us gifts now. So
Right.
yeah, so you've got to do that building.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna give you all the contact information.
Awesome. I always love locations like that has those layers of history,
Right.
Like you were saying, you go in the wallpaper, there's all the Masonic imagery and stuff
Well,
like that.
Henry Ford had an office there.
Oh, wow.
He was going to bring his car dealership down there. So as an extra, an extra factory, I guess. And so he, for years, had his own office in there. So, it has a huge history. Yeah. I'll give you all the information.
Perfect.
It'll be fun.
Sounds great.
So anyway, so tell me more. What's other really fun things?
There's a location that I investigated for a number of years, about 10 years. It's actually still a location I'm actively investigating and hoping to get back into this year, or 2022. It's a location in San Lorenzo, California, just outside of Oakland, called the McConaughey Estate. And that's a really cool place. For a number of years, I helped with the Hayward Area Historical Society, raising funds by doing like public ghost hunts and private tours and things of that nature to help raise funds for the building. But what makes the McConaughey Estate so interesting was the McConaughey family. Almost every member of that family died in the house, some of which was really tragic. But yet again, another really great story. A lot of that Victorian culture associated with it, where, in the Victorian period, death culture was an everyday part of life. That was always something they looked at as the next transition, something they were preparing for, and something they took very seriously. And it was a place that made me start to notice that culture is such a huge part of these hauntings in certain places. Sometimes you see with the TV shows, or you see with, online content, where people don't take into account the people that are involved. They think they're going in to have this big spooky experience or have an adrenaline rush or whatever it may be. But in reality, if ghosts are what we believe them to be, it's, consciousness after death, and people that once lived, worked, and died in these buildings. And it was in McConaughey Estate I started to see that correlation with why Victorian era buildings are so haunted. And I think a lot of that has to do with their belief system, from that time period, and that culture, and about how death was such a huge part of their life. The various traditions that they had when people would pass away, the things they would do to prepare for that next step, and the McConaughey Estate was a place where I learned about those traditions. I learned about that culture, and had a lot of really cool evidence associated with that, and had access to all the newspaper archives, all of the personal artifacts from the family. And it was a really cool experience to be part of that. And I can't wait to get back to that location. I always recommend anyone in that area, or anyone looking to travel to a place to check out or have an experience. The McConaughey Estate in San Lorenzo is a perfect place to check out.
Oh, nice. That's so cool. I love it. I love it. I know. I love it. There are a lot of people who want to do ghost stuff. Another a place that I really want to go and do ghost stuff upcoming is Bodie.
Oh yeah, I love
Yeah.
Bodie.
Yeah. Have you been there and done
Oh
some
yeah.
ghost stuff? Yeah, because I figured that's pretty fun.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
anytime you can get into a ghost town like that, it's a really
Right.
fun experience, not only from the history
Yeah.
standpoint, but
Right.
the paranormal side of it as well. But
Mhm.
Bodie's very unique place. And it is so cool to walk through that town and just kind of look into buildings and see all the items that are still there. You walk by like
Right.
the Undertaker shop and you see all the caskets are still there, like they just fixed up
Nobody
in the
wanted
rock.
to touch.
Yeah,
Nobody wanted to
exactly.
touch it. Yeah.
And like you go
Yeah.
into some of the houses and there's still silverware and plates, and it's
Wow.
just a
I love
very
that.
unique experience to see something like that.
Right. I used to do that to a place in Alaska, uh, uh, out in gosh, what was that area called? Cooper's Landing, I think. And we would go up to a cabin and stay up there and do snowmobiling actually. And we would go in, and it's really mountainous. And so there was a old copper mine back there, and it was completely, at the time, everything had just been left, so all the offices and everything it was all the receipts and all the different stuff, and it was so fun to just go through it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's unique to see stuff like that. Not many
Hmm.
places in the country you can go to that have that
Everything
rusted decay.
intact.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's just
everything was intact.
yeah, it's a
Yeah.
very cool thing to see, and Bodhi's a great
It's weird.
example of that as well, where you can spend days there if you wanted to, just
Mm-hmm.
walking through and seeing every portion of it, seeing the cemetery, the beautiful scenery. It almost feels like when you're at Bodhi, you're like at the end of the earth. You're
Hmm.
standing there and you look off, it's just nothingness for miles and as far as you can see.
Wow.
And
Wow.
so
I haven't been there. I haven't been there. I've only been to places like Jerome,
oh,
over
Jerome,
in,
yeah.
yeah, Jerome over by, in Arizona.
Hmm.
But yeah, yeah, where it used to be real quiet, but it isn't so quiet anymore. But it's
Yeah.
really nice.
Yeah,
It's
I went there years ago too. Went to the Jerome Grand Hotel, stayed
yeah.
there, and yeah, it's really been getting a lot bigger as of late.
Hmm.
And I know there's wineries and things like that out there now that weren't
Hmm.
there
Oh
a number of
yeah,
years ago.
yeah. People, yeah. There's wineries now.
So
Yeah,
it's
funny.
it's back to a boomtown in a different way, but
Yeah, different. Yeah, in a kind of a wine way. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hilarious. Yeah. No, I know. It's great. And then I do a lot of work out of Sedona. I just got done with a Sedona seminar, and those are magical in themselves. We have a lot of fun with that energy.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
Sedona's a beautiful place, and yeah,
Yeah.
living in Ventura, I'm not too far from Ojai. That's another
Yeah.
great
I
location.
When I first came off the Alaska pipeline, I bought a house in Ojai, California. That's how I ended up back in California because my parents went back and forth from Alaska. My dad was born in Santa Cruz. My mom was born in Alaska. And so we went back and forth when I was a kid, and from the Bay Area to there to Alaska. And so, but I needed to be by an airport because, we were still working on the Alaska pipeline. So, yeah, so I chose Ojai. Yeah,
Yeah,
because
Ojai's
it was far
cool.
enough. Yeah, because, I needed to have my horses and everything. So,
That's a
yeah,
perfect place for it, and there's an interesting energy to Ojai as well.
yeah.
A lot of people compare it to Sedona in a way, in
Mm-hmm.
some aspects, and I've been, since living in Ventura for 10 years, I frequent
Yeah.
Ojai all the time and go check out that beautiful old pioneer cemetery there, Nordhoff Cemetery.
Oh, yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, which
Down there,
is
kind of by it's down. You go kind of down to it. Is that the
mhm.
one? Yeah,
Yeah,
beautiful.
it's beautiful location, very secluded. I actually was there
Right.
about a week ago, and
Hmm.
for the community came together, and it was one of the first times in 50 years that they cleaned that cemetery. And
Wow.
it's so beautiful looking now. They took all the
Mhm.
old foliage out and all the old leaves and cleaned it
Yeah.
up, and they actually found some graves they didn't even know were there.
Wow.
And
Wow.
it
That's
was,
interesting.
yeah, a beautiful place, and a
Wow.
location with a lot of energy to it. It's
Hmm.
anyone gets a chance, they're close to Ojai, check out Nordhoff Cemetery, and it's a really beautiful place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, so yeah, I loved Ojai. It was a fun. I just lived right down the street from Krishnamurti at the time. The where he was, you know, his compound was really wonderful. Yeah, and I didn't know, you know, I thought, oh, you know, I didn't know who Krishnamurti was at the time, but he was, you know, fantastic. Fantastic. Some of the great minds of the world, you know. Yeah.
Ojai seems to attract people like that for sure. You never know who you're going to run into in Ojai.
Right. Because I hung out with all the Elevate people that used to live there too. Yeah. That was. I mean, they're the movers and shakers too,
right?
With what the internet and all that fun stuff. And hey, Brandon, so how can people find you?
Yeah, you can find me on my personal website, brandonjalvis.com, and all social media, just at Brandon Alvis. And with the book, Elements of a Haunting, you can get it Barnes & Noble, Amazon, Llewellyn website, and it'll be out January 8th. And it's available for pre-order now. So we're very excited about that.
Right. Are you going to do some book signings?
Absolutely. Yeah, we're looking forward to that. And, you know, getting out there, doing some book signings, and hopefully some public investigations as well. So people can come out and be part of that. And we're very excited, and just really cool to work with Llewellyn. I mean, such a great publisher.
Oh yeah, they're great. They are. I love so many of their books. I'm such I mean, Cheyenne too, you know, yesterday in the mail, she had a book come to her, and it's just you know, we just are such book nerds, and they're hard to move when you have to move them around.
Right.
Hard to move.
Absolutely.
You know, and I just have such a collection, you know, probably one of the largest occult libraries these days, you know, and Cheyenne, she's following close behind.
It's always good to have the power of knowledge behind you. That's for sure.
Yeah. So it's great. Yeah. And a lot of philosophy and psychology books as well. You know, we love all that, writing books. Yeah. But but mostly nonfiction seems to be like we're the nonfiction crew.
Same here. I'm right the same way. I think a good at least 30% of my library is Llewellyn books. So
I love Llewellyn books. Love.
So once we had the offer from Llewellyn, I was like, there's no question Llewellyn's the one to go with.
Right. Oh, that's cool. So, that's cool.
I'm all about, you know, knowledge and the power of knowledge, and reading is key, you know, and that's like I mentioned earlier, before I actually ever went into the field and tried to communicate or even try and open that door, if you will. I read as much as I possibly could from all aspects, you know, metaphysical, occult, scientific, all of it, you know, and I really wanted to have an understanding, because I want to be as open-minded as possible. I want to have as much knowledge as possible, and I want to go into a situation and just let that experience happen and not have a preconceived notion per se. And I want to just have that experience and hopefully learn more. That's really the big goal.
Yeah. My thing was I learned astrology, Eastern and Western, when I was, you know, in the bookstore and everything. I just loved, you know, that. But shamanic stuff, I never really would read. The only book that I read from when I started doing the automatic writing, because I was so prolific at it, is Melvin Morse, Children of the Light, because children don't lie. And so they would have these experiences, and I realized that a lot of what I was writing already was those experiences. To whereas I loved that. I just loved that you know, what I was seeing was what the children were seeing. So, and then I was a child of that anyway. So we were just watching last night, Cheyenne and I were watching A Ghost Inside Your Children or something like that. I don't know the exact title, but that, to whereas it's the children of reincarnation.
Right.
Yeah. And both her and I were those children. So we were like, it gave us a lot of conversation afterwards. It was fun. But it's been just great to have you on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah,
This is great. It's great to
yeah.
finally meet you. And
Yeah,
I
it's
can't
just
believe you knew
great.
Patrick. That's just
Oh my
mind-blowing.
gosh, we're gonna totally have to catch up on that one. Yeah,
Absolutely.
that is so great. And especially now that I'm writing this book and everything, I'll have to ask him, all sorts of fun things, because I'm sure, well, he's pretty far now. He's a border crosser, what he calls a border crosser. And so what he's doing is he's helping people. He's picking up people who die.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
yeah. And
That
so
sounds like him.
yeah, yeah. And then he's gone to channeling school as well. So he's going to be a great channel someday. But and so anyway, I've gotten a lot of information from him and stuff. And so I think you'll love all the stuff he has to say.
I can't
Yeah.
wait to hear about it. Can't
Yeah,
wait.
I'll tell you about it because it's great. Yeah. And so I'm just about done. I'm probably I have about already there's so much done in the book. I have about 20,000 more words that I want to maybe finish the book
Fantastic.
with. So it's coming. It's coming. If anybody knows, you have to have a certain amount of words in your book.
That's right.
So 20,000 isn't too much more, but it's still a little bit. It's got to meet the curve. Yeah, but it's been great. So thank you for being on the show, Brandon.
I appreciate it. Yet
I
again.
can't wait to talk to you again. You can find me at terrainsight.com. I'm a little tired this morning. Last night was the biggest eclipse, the longest eclipse of 580 years was the last eclipse this long. So, you have to be up for it. I didn't get to see it. I had to watch it on the media slew, but it's really because it's raining here in Washington. Okay, lots of love, everybody. Blessings.
Thank you for listening to Transformations with Tara. Tara hopes this program brings guidance and insight towards a better tomorrow. If you have any questions or inquiries, or would just like to know more about Tara Sutphen's workshops and seminars or private sessions, please visit her website now at terrainsight.com. Until next time, many blessings.